Have you ever felt like the US history you learned in school was a little too neat? A little too clean? Like a highlight reel that conveniently skipped over all the messy, complicated parts? Well, you're not wrong. Today, we're going to talk about the 99 lies they taught you in US history and unpack some of the biggest myths about America's past. Think back to your history classes. You probably learned about heroic founding fathers, a righteous revolution, a noble civil war to end slavery, and America's inevitable rise as a global beacon of freedom and democracy. It's a great story. It's inspiring. The only problem is, much of it is a simplified, sanitized, and sometimes completely fabricated version of what actually happened. Let's start with one of the most foundational stories, Christopher Columbus. We were taught he discovered America, a brave explorer who proved the world was round. The reality? He never set foot in North America. The lands he stumbled upon were already home to millions of people with thriving, complex societies, and his arrival wasn't a discovery. It was the start of a brutal, catastrophic invasion that led to the enslavement and decimation of indigenous populations. Calling it a discovery completely erases the perspective of the people who were already there. It's like saying you discovered a house that was already full of people living their lives. It's just not accurate. Then there's the story of the first Thanksgiving. You know the one? Pilgrims and Native Americans sitting down together for a harmonious feast, a symbol of friendship and cooperation. While a single harvest meal in 1621 likely did happen, this image whitewashes the incredibly tense and often violent relationship that followed. Within a generation, the peaceful coexistence had devolved into brutal conflict, like King Philip's War, one of the deadliest wars in American history. The Thanksgiving myth papers over this tragic reality, making it seem like everything was just fine. It wasn't. Let's move on to the Founding Fathers. We see them as demigods, brilliant men who crafted a nation built on the idea that all men are created equal. And they were brilliant, no doubt. But they were also deeply flawed and hypocritical. Many of them, including Thomas Jefferson, who penned those famous words, were slave owners. They spoke of liberty while holding hundreds of human beings in bondage. They created a government for we the people, but that people originally only included white, property-owning men. Understanding this contradiction doesn't mean we have to cancel the founders. It means we have to see them as complex human beings, not plaster saints. It forces us to grapple with the fact that the ideals of America were, from the very beginning, in direct conflict with its reality. And what about the Civil War? The simple story is that the North fought a noble war to free the slaves. While ending slavery became a central outcome, it wasn't the primary motivation at the start. Abraham Lincoln himself said his main goal was to preserve the Union with or without slavery. The Emancipation Proclamation was a strategic military move as much as it was a moral one. It freed slaves only in the rebellious Confederate states, not in the border states that stayed loyal to the Union. The real story is that the war was about many things: states' rights, economic differences, and, yes, centrally, the institution of slavery. But simplifying it to a story of pure good versus evil hides the political complexities and the fact that abolition was a hard-won fight, not a foregone conclusion. After the Civil War, we learn about Reconstruction, a period often glossed over as a failure. But it was an incredible, revolutionary moment where formerly enslaved people gained political power, voted, and held office. It was violently crushed not because it failed, but because it was succeeding. The narrative of failure was created by those who wanted to re-establish white supremacy, and that sanitized version made its way into our textbooks for decades. Moving into the 20th century, think about America's role in the world. We're taught that the US has always been a reluctant hero, a champion of democracy that only gets involved in foreign conflicts to help others. This ignores a long history of American imperialism. From the Spanish-American War, where the US acquired territories like the Philippines and Puerto Rico, to the numerous interventions in Latin America to protect corporate interests. The overthrow of democratically elected governments in places like Iran and Guatemala, orchestrated by the CIA, are often left out of the main narrative. America's foreign policy has always been a mix of idealism and self-interest, and pretending it's only the former is dishonest. Even the civil rights movement gets the sanitized treatment. We get a very neat, non-threatening version. We learn about Martin Luther King Jr.'s "I Have a Dream" speech, but we don't learn about his radical critiques of capitalism, poverty, and the Vietnam War. He was considered a dangerous radical by many in the government, not the universally beloved figure he is today. We see Rosa Parks as a tired old lady who just didn't want to get up, but she was a lifelong trained activist. The movement wasn't just peaceful marchers. It was a disruptive, confrontational struggle that faced incredible violence and resistance. By making it seem easy and inevitable, we rob it of its true power and courage. So, why does any of this matter? Why poke holes in these comforting national myths? Because history isn't just a collection of facts and dates. It's the story we tell ourselves about who we are, where we came from, and where we're going. When that story is a lie, we can't properly understand the problems we face today. The legacy of Columbus's discovery is still felt in the struggles of Native American communities. The unresolved contradictions of the Founding Fathers are at the heart of our ongoing debates about race and equality. The sanitized story of the civil rights movement makes us less prepared to understand and engage in today's social justice movements. A sanitized history creates a population that is unprepared for complexity. It teaches us that progress is easy and automatic, that our heroes are perfect, and that our country is always on the right side. When we discover that none of that is true, it can lead to cynicism and disillusionment. The real history, the messy, complicated, and often painful history, is so much more interesting and so much more useful. It shows us that change is hard. It shows us that progress is not a straight line, but a constant struggle. It shows us that even flawed people can contribute to noble causes, and that our greatest ideals have always been contested. Learning the real history doesn't mean we should hate America. In fact, it's the opposite. True patriotism isn't blind allegiance to a simplified myth. It's loving your country enough to look at it honestly, warts and all, and to commit to helping it live up to its highest ideals. It's just about acknowledging the gap between the promise of liberty and justice for all and the reality, and then working to close that gap. The next time you hear a simple, feel-good story about American history, ask yourself, who is being left out of this story? Whose perspective is being ignored? What inconvenient truths might be hidden behind this myth? Questioning the history we've been taught isn't unpatriotic. It's the first step toward understanding who we really are. And that's a history worth learning. Thanks so much for watching. If this video got you thinking, hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the stories that shape our world. Let me know in the comments which U.S. history myth you find the most frustrating. See you next time.